Hello everyone and welcome to the first game we'll be covering from the round 4 day 2 of the SuperUnited Rapid and Blitz tournament currently being played in Croatia. This is the Rapid part and it's also the first game that finished. It actually finished really quickly. Fabi spent pretty much no time. Magnus spent a bit more, but for a very good reason, and you will very soon see why that is so. And now it's very uncommon for Magnus to make such a I don't know if it would be classified as a mistake, because they change these things. Sometimes what was once a blunder is now a mistake. What was a mistake is now an inaccuracy. So I don't know the precise terminology, but it's not the best move. So let's check it out. Magnus had the white pieces and he opens with c4. He goes for the English opening. Knight to f6, we have knight to c3 and e5 by Fabi, the two knights of the English, and of course you all know what that means. We will have the four knights of the English. Knight f3, knight to c6, and now striking in the center with the d4. We have e captures on d4 by Fabi, knight captures, and now bishop to b4. And here, bishop to g5 is the most common move, knight captures on c6 is second most popular. Magnus goes for g3, and now, while there are moves that have been played in this position, Fabi plays knight to a5, and there is only one move that one game where this move was played by a gentleman named Sergei Rublevsky. I did not find it in the database. I just saw Chess24 published it on Twitter, but as I don't have any other references to this game, I will call it that it is as of move 6 that we have a completely new game. So let's see how Magnus deals with this. Point is that now if you play something like e3, you will get a messed up pawn structure here. Black will play b6, fianchetto to the bishop, and this will be a permanent weakness, something with the knight on a5, similar to like you would have in an Imzo Indian defense. So Magnus instead goes queen to d3, defends the knight with the queen, and now pawn to d5. And okay, Magnus trades with pawn captures, queen captures. The knight is of course pinned, so the queen is safe on d5. And now queen to b5 with check. Magnus forces a queen trade with bishop d7, queen captures, and knight captures. Now Fabi threatening to win material here with a capture on c3. And Magnus just plays bishop to d2. And now Fabi plays knight captures on c3. And here you should just capture the knight. You should play b captures or bishop captures. But Magnus decided that he didn't want to mess up his pawn structure. He wanted to kick away the bishop and then just play bishop captures on c3 and have his bishop on this long diagonal. However, this does not work. He played knight to c2, but now Fabi said, all right, obviously if I go back, now you play, now you recapture, and now your bishop is very strong, and white should definitely be better here. However, Fabi said, all right, but what about knight captures on a2? Now I've grabbed a pawn, I'm already up a piece, and my bishop here is defended. So Magnus doesn't really have a good option here. He has to play knight captures on b4. He could play bishop captures on b4, but at least for the price of that one pawn, you will have the bishop pair. It is sometimes can be a compensation in itself. Knight captures on b4, and now rook captures on a5. Knight to c2 with check, messing up with Magnus's king a little bit. King d1 and knight to d4. And okay, now Magnus has to continue, but still, it's the bishop pair. You probably will not lose this being down a pawn. So he plays pawn to f3, getting ready to grab the full center with pawn to e4, and now bishop to e6. We have bishop to c3, and now pawn to b6. The idea is, of course, that if you play bishop captures on d4, then the rook will be captured. But this isn't even that bad, and it might even be the best move that Magnus has. You should probably give up the exchange here for the g7 pawn. And now, okay, it's 5 pawns each, but at least you've messed up Fabi's pawn structure a little bit. And still, the bishop pair can from time to time hold such positions. But instead, after b6, Magnus did not play this. He did not bring the rook back. He wanted to have an active rook. He played rook to g5, and now Fabi just castles queenside. We have king to e1, preparing to shift the king over to f2. g6, by playing g6, Fabi sets a most deadly trap, but Magnus misses it. He just plays king to f2, and now Fabi's position is completely winning. I'm sure you guys can spot the move, but feel free to pause the video and try to punish this second inaccuracy or a mistake or a blunder by Magnus while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on always looking for that weirdest move. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is of course pawn to f6. Pawn to f6, and the rook is trapped. The rook has no squares, covered by the bishop, covered by the pawn, covered by the knight, covered by the pawn. No square, unfortunately, for the rook. And I think Magnus already gave up here. He didn't resign, he just gave up, of course, in his mind. He probably gave up maybe even after that the a pawn was blundered, but maybe not. Maybe he still thought, okay, the bishop pair will hold their own against the extra pawn. But here e3 is the move that should be played. You give up a rook, you pick up the knight here, you attack the rook, and when the rook gets into the game, you develop bishop to e6 with check, you bring the rook into the game, and you still try to fight. And this is the Magnus that we're used to seeing. You know, even if you're down, even it doesn't matter. Remember that time that Magnus, I think it was maybe even 2017, I think it was the Isle of Man tournament, he was playing against Gawain Jones, and Magnus blundered a full piece and ended up winning the game because he constantly played the absolute best move. But okay, here your opponent is Fabiano Caruana, so chances are, even if you play the absolute best move, you will not be beating him. But yeah, it's probably something that you know, we're accustomed to seeing from Magnus. But he played a rook to g4, and now Fabi just takes the exchange, messes up his pawn structure, and goes rook h to e8 with full development. And now not only is Magnus done the exchange, but also his pawn structure is all messed up. So he plays pawn h4, we have pawn to c5, and now pawn to h5. Fabi blocks the position, we have pawn to h6, knight to b5 now, preparing to capture the bishop. We have bishop back to e1, and now rook to d1. Fabi with full activity all over the board. We have e3, and now knight to d6. Now the knight is coming to e4. We have king to f3, and king to c7. We have bishop to e2, chasing the rook away, but just rook to b1. Not a problem. We have bishop to d3, attacking the rook and the h7 pawn, and it seems that Magnus will eliminate the h7 pawn and create a passer here, but it is far too late for such things. Bishop captures on h7 was played. Now comes knight to c4, and it was in this position on move 31 that Magnus Carlsen resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Really, there isn't, even though, okay, you could move the bishop and start pushing that pawn, there's just no move that you can do. The e3 pawn is hanging, you have to defend it somehow. Let's say you play bishop to f2, now knight e5 check. And now what do you do? If king to g4, if king g2, you just play knight captures on g4. Now again, the bishop is lost if you try to defend it. Then knight captures on e3 with check. The bishop is pinned, so you're going to lose the rook as well. King g1, knight captures, king captures, and okay, you might argue, yes, it's a bishop. We still have the bishop pair. Maybe the pass pawn can do something, but just rook h8. And that's it. Once the bishop moves, you're going to pick up the passed pawn, and that is it. So unfortunately for Magnus, no coming back from this. It was, you know, an inaccuracy that led to a mistake that led to a blunder. And that's, either of those is enough for Fabi to win the game against anyone, but all three, that's just not going to do. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Very nicely done by Fabi. He now overtakes Magnus into first place, but it all depends on how other games finish, as this is the first game that finished, and how the leader, Vishwanathan Anand, will also conduct his game. So we'll check up on that as well. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon